Hello, I'm Judith Richards. I'm the creator of TRTP, the Richards Trauma Process. Let's talk about trauma. I'm talking about big T trauma here because there's big trauma and there's small t trauma. I think it's pretty obvious without me explaining what the difference is, but let's just talk about the big T stuff today. What is trauma? Trauma is not necessarily what happens to us. It's what happens inside us as a result of that. It comes from the Greek word trauma, means wounding. So it's that internal wounding. And trauma is not necessarily what happens to us, but being alone in that wounding. Even if there are other people around us at the time of the event, we are alone in the isolation of our distress. So that's what trauma is, a wounding. And we have so many physical and emotional symptoms with that. Let's talk about some of the lesser known symptoms of trauma. Cold hands and feet. Did you know about that one? Skin conditions. Yes, skin conditions, because the body draws water into the core and away from the outer layers of the skin in order to save it, just in case we don't get water soon. And so things like eczema, psoriasis. The dermatologist said to me once, the skin is the parchment of the soul. The soul writes its story on the skin, the largest organ of the body. Yeah. What are some of the other less known symptoms of trauma? Heightened startle reflex, jumping with a noise or something we see out of the corner of our eye and then having to peel ourselves off the ceiling. That really high startle reflex. And the hypervigilance, a lot of people know about that one. Where's the danger? Where's the danger? So I'm on the edge all the time because everything in my body is responding as if what happened before is happening now. The dreadfulness that caused these symptoms is happening now according to my body. So there's continual pumping out of adrenaline. So gut problems. Yeah, because the adrenaline's job, one of its first jobs, is to shut down those systems that we don't need in order to survive the next little while we deal with this threat. So the digestion gets shut down because we don't need to digest breakfast. We need to just get on with getting away, fighting or running from the danger. Another system that gets down-regulated is the immune system. We don't need to fight off a bacterial infection right now because that's not the most urgent thing that's happening. We have to deal with this danger right now. So these systems are shut down. Another one that can stay shut down, down-regulated anyway, is the frontal lobe and the hippocampus. The hippocampus is responsible for memory. So craft, I call it. Memory problems. I can't remember a flipping thing because so much of me is in shutdown, including part of my brain. Anger, irritability, anger, and rage. Rage, the sort of rage that comes from nowhere. It's like a lit match at petrol. Bang! 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in a nanosecond. That's the most difficult symptom to live with, someone suffering this. And it's the most difficult symptom for those who are living with the sufferer have to live with. So these are some of the less talked about symptoms. Hearing issues. How we translate auditory signals can change to make hearing difficult. And tinnitus. Not all tinnitus is caused by trauma, but some is. So headaches, numbing, emotional numbing, just shut down. Blunted affect. What on earth is blunted affect? Blunted affect is part of that numbing, that emotional shutdown, but it's physical. There's no expression in the face. The voice is a monotone. There's no expression in the voice. It's quiet and there's no expression. Disconnection from self, from others, from one's body. I remember one evening thinking, what's that under my foot? And realizing I could feel with my bare foot, I could feel the floorboards. But what is that? It was only then that I realized, oh, I haven't been able to feel my body for very many years now. Which also caused a very high pain threshold, just saying. It had its uses. And dissociation from self. Feeling like you're not quite here. That you're separate from the world somehow. So anyway, there's just some of the less talked about symptoms of trauma. There's one more before I go. Some phobias. Some phobias that have nothing to do with the object that one is phobic about, or the subject of what the phobia is about. So just for example, this woman who I worked with some years ago had a phobia about turning left in her car. Now in Australia, if people are going to have a phobia about turning, it's going to be turning right, because you turn right in front of the oncoming traffic, because we drive on the left-hand side of the road. This lady was most unusual in that she couldn't turn left. She just physically could not do it. She would sweat. She would panic. I said, when did it start? She said, it started 2 years ago when I was driving my son to school and I just couldn't turn left. I had to find a route turning right all the way. And since then, I've had to only find routes that I could turn right with. Wow. Were you in a car accident? No. Was there something dreadful that happened once when you were turning left? No. Have you been in any car accidents? No. Had anything dreadful happen in a car? No. Okay, when did it start? 2 years ago. What was happening around that time and just before that phobia started? So I was going through a dreadfully distressing divorce. It was horrible. Okay, so the phobia wasn't about driving. It wasn't about cars. You know, that wasn't the cause. It was just an overstressed system that couldn't take any more. So some phobias are from trauma. And of course, there's phobias of, you know, if you're in an airplane and something dreadful happens and then you develop a phobia about air travel, I mean, that's obvious. But these other less obvious phobias are not always linked to the causative trauma. So there we are. It's quite a list, isn't it, of less obvious, less talked about symptoms of trauma and what trauma is. That disconnection is hugely problematic. If there's someone in your life who's suffering from pretty big T trauma, the greatest gift you can give them is warm, loving connection that has no expectations. Thanks. Go well, go gently.